He said, it is only self-knowing that breaks down all conditioning, and therefore the mind need not depend on any challenge to keep completely awake. This means a great deal of work inwardly, a great deal of work watching everlastingly, which means no laziness. And we are lazy. So when you are lazy, be lazy, but be aware that you are lazy. Then out of that awareness, a different sense of meaning to that word comes. When you are lazy completely. And when you are aware that you are lazy, you allow yourself to be lazy when it is necessary. But when there is awareness of that laziness, and you are lazy because you went to sleep late last night, you overate, or you did this, or one of the dozen things that make you lazy, then that very awareness corrects the reasons for laziness. So what is important in all this, if I may point out, is to understand yourself, is to watch yourself as in a mirror. And you can only watch yourself in relationship, not in isolation, not as a hermit, but in relationship with your boss, with your wife or husband, with your neighbor, with the ugly politician, and so on. Then in that awareness, you come upon something that is indestructible, that is immense. Quite a long quote, but it is so profound. And within this one paragraph, so many of your questions about acceptance and how the process unfolds are answered. You know? So let's start with the first aspect of it. It is only self-knowing that breaks down all conditioning, all habitual mental patterns, all the dysfunction and contradictions of mind that we find ourselves constantly in the push and pull in between of that, you know? That which creates a lot of dysfunction and suffering in our life. Only self-knowing, self-watching is the way to cleanse all that dysfunction. The mind doesn't need to rely on anything, right? We're always trying to solve everything on a mental level, in a mental way. And this is what's so big about this teaching. And it's in its simplicity, it is providing to you perhaps the easiest way to go about this change that you're trying to create within yourself personally, and ultimately to wake up to a greater intelligence within yourself. So self-watching, self-awareness, it is to watch all that arises within you as you just go about your day-to-day existence. Everybody has something going on in their work, in their relationship, in their family life. You know, we all have the day-to-day stuff. That itself is your spiritual process, like we always say. All the your own partner, your own boss, or your employees, or whoever it is, or even some sort of situation, is constantly bringing to the surface many different thoughts, many belief systems, many emotions, all the stuff within you. Our mistake is that we just constantly stay immersed outside. What is happening? What is this person doing? You know, what is going on? What is happening to me? Because you see, these are very mental interpretations of what's happening. We identify and remain in those mental descriptions at the level of mind. And as I said on the previous call, mind is only focused on what is happening. And so we remain immersed. So by watching yourself in a mirror, what it means is to bring this one, the one that is constantly offering judgments, interpretations, all sorts of projections, instead of being so immersed on the outside, bring this one into your vision, into your field of seeing. And not to do anything about it, not to further judge, not to further interpret, but to simply bring it in your awareness. This is what Krishnamurti is describing here. So if laziness is arising, and perhaps some judgment on that laziness as well, don't just be lazy, be aware that right now there's total laziness here, and be aware that there's also judgment. It's like you're almost watching yourself like a movie. We're watching your stuff on the screen. So far, you were just completely immersed in the world and what's happening. But now you're interested in the subtle reality, not just what we call material and physical. You're opening up to a whole different world. Previously, this whole world was just happening it was still there. All this stuff was still there, but it was just all happening unconsciously. And it is actually this that you were suffering. But now all this subtle stuff you're also bringing into your seeing. You see? So you become aware laziness is here. Along with that, you become aware that judgments on that laziness are arising. That guilt because of that laziness is also arising. So don't just feel guilty, be aware that there's guilt present. You're being there totally for the guilt. Usually you're just running away from the guilt, you're trying to further feel guilty for feeling guilty, interpreting why the guilt is there, trying to find solutions to your guilt, thinking about your guilt. Acceptance, this this simple practice that you are introduced to, you're asked to not try to do anything about it, not try to get rid of it, not trying to judge it, but simply watch it, become aware of it. And so when we usually talk about this, especially a person that is new to this teaching, then they, they go into that obvious mind judgment about this teaching, which is, okay, if I do this, I still have this problem on the outside. I still have this behavioral problem that I can't fix. Like, what is observing going to do? What is this pure acceptance of it going to do? So this is where I want you to also catch yourself, become aware of even this concern. But here's the simple solution to it in this quote right here. That the very awareness of it corrects the reasons for the guilt, for the laziness. And this is something you have to get a hang of yourself. Hearing about it is good, but until you notice this in your own experience, the cleansing effect of awareness, the bringing everything into balance, into alignment, that natural aspect of this watching practice, this observing, then you will realize the true power of it. Then you will no longer think that the observing of what is a passive practice. Then you will actually, even your mind will understand that ultimately this is more beneficial to whatever is going on rather than anything that I could do mentally. Because please trust that in the moment, if some sort of action is required or some sort of doing is required, it will itself surface out of that knowing, out of that presence. You need not force anything, but you must establish yourself as that watching. If you remain in identification with just on the mental level, just interpretations, judgments, then you will always remain in that cloud. And from here you will seek solutions. And from here you'll be like, it doesn't work for me. And I can't become quiet or this and that. In the watching of all of this, not only does all the dysfunction come to rest more and more, but also the solutions, the willingness to implement those solutions, the willpower, the ability to sort of let go of what is no longer serving you, even though previously there was some attachment to it. All this comes, but you must yield to the simplicity of this practice. And that is why, so the last paragraph of this, that is why we say that experience is your greatest teacher, because it is only through experience that you get to watch yourself in that mirror. If you were to just go somewhere, completely isolate yourself, of course that would be easier for your meditation practice and to go within. But ultimately, it would itself become a barrier to some extent. So right here, so us living this sort of modern life where there's so much to do and so much activity and constant things, This itself is your practice. All your experiences bringing out from underneath the surface everything that is unconscious, all these labels, all these ideas about yourself, these judgments about yourself, bringing all that to the surface. And you're able to watch yourself. You're able to watch this, and only by watching it does the identification loosen, right? Only then, now, the same thing, someone says the same remark to you today that they said maybe 5 months ago. And 5 months ago, you were so angry because this person said this thing. But you're doing the work, and now the same person said the same thing today, but something it isn't pulled in that anger anymore. Why? Because that identification with the anger is sort of fading away. It may still arise, but it doesn't have the capacity to pull you so hard, influence all your action, make you do all sorts of things that you'll later regret. So you see, even on an unconscious level, this watching, this pure observing of all these personal things that arise, it will slowly wither away all the belief and the identification that binds you to this thought, this emotion, this sensation. And only when this belief is starting to be relieved does there arise true clarity, true understanding. And your own sense of self, who I am, is now deeper than just this thought, this idea about myself, this sensation, this emotion. Only because you are established in a greater, deeper truth within yourself are you now no longer reacting to every little emotion and thought. You see? I wonder if you see this, like the thoughts and emotions were previously the level from where you were responding. You believe that this I am, and so when like the beingness, the me-ness is so mixed with the thought, with the emotion. And by the practice of self-watching, and obviously through the inquiry, which is the sort of second step to this, the I-ness, the me-ness, the beingness is unmixed from the temporary little thoughts that arise and subside, the sensations that arise and subside. And so now you're perhaps in the beginning unknowingly established in the deeper truth, established in a deeper essence. And then you actually start to recognize that from where I perceive, what is that? That is when the whole inquiry, that is what the whole inquiry is about. But only because you are transcending the personal stuff do you get established in that which is impersonal, that which is prior to mind, to emotion. So I just wanted to share that with you today to first and foremost start out, because it is so powerful, and it is a really brilliant way of just, in a few little words that he expressed this.